everybody. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Hopefully, I'm Demi. Hopefully it is a beautiful day wherever you are. If you're in the United States, I'm on the East Coast. We're in Charlotte here, and it could not be a prettier day today outside. So I hope you get a chance to get outside. We're in our makeshift workshop, as always, during COVID-19 and coronavirus pandemic times. We're making it work, so we're bringing you a lot of programming. If this is the first time that you're joining us, check out our Facebook archives on She Built the City. We have tons of projects already listed. We're getting our YouTube page up and running this weekend so that we have that as well. But today, what are we doing? I don't have a finished one to show you yet because we're going to make it together. But we are making a DIY succulent planter. So I'm just going to hold this up for you and show you this is a work in progress. What do you need? And if you know me at all, we have a lot of donated scrap wood. We typically work with 9 to 12-year-old girls, that's called Explorer Girls, then Builder Girls Club, which is middle school girls, and Women at Work Trade Circles, which is training women on different aspects and DIY projects like this, as well as getting them together and connected to jobs in the industry of construction manufacturing. So I use a lot of donated wood, so I'm going to use a couple of samples here. You can go to your local Lowe's, who is a great partner of ours, and Craftsman Tools. Lowe's will pre-cut these down, and again, in social distancing, you can still get pre-cut lumber right now. Lowe's is open to serve our communities. And make your judgment calls as to if it's shelter in place. You're clearly not going to do that today, but if it is a little more flexible for you all to get out, or curbside service, you can do that as well. So, what are we using today? We have our succulents here. These are also available at Lowe's, but you can get those just about anywhere right now. It is always succulent season. I love succulents because I have a tendency not to keep plants growing. I am not really a green thumb. Age requirements for this project as well. If you get the lumber pre-cut, this is one that you can definitely do with kids. I would say around 8 or 9 years old and above if parental supervision is happening. Not a project that I would have your kids doing by themselves, which is most of our projects, not doing by themselves. All the way up to whatever age you want. So what did I start with? I've got a couple of these pre-done. I wanted to not take a ton of time cutting all of my wood. These are just scrap 1x4s for me. They're very thick. You don't need something this thick, so I'm going to show you my other sample, which is more just really simple plywood put together. But I've already pre-drilled and put in my drills with drivers, or put in my screws, excuse me, on 1-foot blocks. So I did this on my miter saw. You can always also do this on a table saw. We did use a table saw for our plywood cutting. Or again, if you're not looking to have this kind of equipment in your garage or at home, it's always a pre-cut for free example at Lowe's. They're happy to help you there. The guys and gals at the pro desk are happy in the lumber section to cut all of this down for you to make it a little bit simpler. So then all you need to do is sand. So I went ahead and made 12-inch blocks of the base wood here. Went ahead and sanded all of these corners down. I'm going to go ahead and show you again. Here's our drill versus driver. Driver is going to be what is going to put in your screws, bolts, etc. Pre-drilling holes is with your drill. So these are two things that I really recommend you do have because you can do so many projects with a drill and a driver and a hammer and scrap wood. So it's a good investment, especially for kids. This is something that when we work with Builder Girls Club and some of our Explorer Girls camps, I would love to see these on Christmas lists, especially for girls, because we typically work with girls, but right now we're builder kids because there's so many kids at home who are looking for projects to do with their parents or on their own. So anyway, I have a 3/16 bit in here right now, which because of the thickness of my wood, I have to use a bigger screw here and longer because this is a pretty substantial piece of wood that I did not have to use. So I'm just going to finish this off by pre-drilling. And again, I've got a pretty sizable thickness of piece of wood, so that's a lot to go through. Now I'm going to take my driver and just, again, finish this off. I'm working on a bit of a rickety table. I don't have that to show you with my clamps, but I did clamp this down on the other 4 pieces. So pretty simple. how we made our connections. Again, in that square, I went ahead here. You could put it on the outside if you want to make a bigger planter box. I kept it pretty simple on this one. Last one, and we're done. So there's my square. Super simple. Again, you could use any size wood that you want. I don't recommend this width because, again, this is like, I could get through a hurricane with this wood. You don't necessarily need that for just a basic domestic planter. Plywood, also really good, available at Lowe's, or I had scrap wood. They can pre-cut this for you. This is a square that fits right on top. Super simple stuff. This is going to make the base of your planter. So again, I used that on my miter saw, actually on our table saw last night, just to pre-cut for you. And I'm just going to use finish nails on this, and I'm actually going to get off this table and come around to the floor to finish this off. Because I don't want everything bouncing around on my table. And I'm only gonna do one of these nails just to show you. You could also, I have my industrial strength arrow glue gun over there plugged in. You could glue this down. This is not going outside. Typically these planters, you're gonna wanna use those indoors as a decorative item. Again, I'm just using small finish nails here, so it's super simple. This is a great project, again, for kids. Here, I might as well. I can't handle like unfinished projects. That's probably my OCD coming out, right? But good to get kids involved on something like this because, again, if you've heard me talking, I love small wins, and for kids, a small win is a successful drive with their hammer. They can say, look, Ma, I made this. Look, Dad, I made this. So there's our base, super simple base here. And I'm going to transition over to my finished base. Oh, and by the way, if you were with us for our corner shelf project, this was my second demonstration shelf, and I said I never met a can of spray paint that I didn't like. We did this one. We stained the first one. If you haven't seen it, go back to the archives. This is spray paint. This is 1.5 coats of Krylon spray paint that is their fluorescent, which our builder girls love themselves some fluorescent paint. So this is in honor of them. It actually looks like stained. So I'm super happy with this. And you can really have a lot of fun. So again, I just did fence post wood with this. We are going to create an Etsy site so that we can actually sell some of our samples and use that as a fundraiser for She Built This City programming. But until that time, I have these stacking up in my garage of the projects we're showing you. But have fun with this spray paint because it is super cool. And again, that's the fluorescent, or as we call in the industry, it's called high-vis paint. So you'll see that on highways, or you'll see that in landscaping marking a lot. All right, so what else do we have here? Supply-wise, I'm going to show you this, and I don't have my gloves on, so be careful. This is in the garden section of Lowe's, so outdoors. This is what you typically would use for chicken netting or for your garden wire. I have, this is 12 by 12, and I got a huge piece of it, so I think this is like $15. I'm going to use this on a ton of different projects. They can also pre-cut that for you at Lowe's, but again, once you start cutting this, you really want to put your gloves on. So the next step for me, I'll show you this one. I've already got part of this done. I'll show you the plywood piece because it's just a picture frame that you're going to put on top of this. But we're going to take this in stages. So once you have your base, I've already got this one. And see, you can tell this is a much thinner set of wood that I've got going on. This scrap wood, this is a lot easier to work with. It goes a little bit faster. So I don't, again, it's much lighter. You don't need anything that's super hefty like I just used with that other scrap wood. It's because I had it laying around and I could show you. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put my gloves on, just simple gloves from the gardening or paint section of Lowe's or your big box retailer, your warehouses, garden store, your local garden store. I keep my potting soil in a tub. Again, we usually have this at the workshop for the girls so they can just, and this might get a little messy on me. I'm gonna try to go as fast as I can. Just going ahead and adding in our potting soil. And you really could, if you wanted to be, for my gardeners out there, if you want to be really high maintenance about rocks, you could. I am going to put this on a 45-degree angle for display purposes in my house. So for me, rocks was a little bit less important. And with the wire that we're going to put in, you should have enough drainage here. And succulents like to be sprayed. I've learned a lot about succulents lately. So you're going to get yourself a nice base of this potting soil, and then you're going to finish off by attaching your screen on top. This is another fun one for kids. They love messing around with potting soil. I don't know what it is. Spray paint and potting soil. You will have some happy children. I guess it's just getting messy and dirty and maybe something that you don't have a chance to do every day, right? So especially these times where the kids are kind of cooped up in the house doing their lesson plans if they're in school, just get them outside and playing in the dirt. Fun projects like this, or just go plant something. That's a great lesson in and of itself. We're getting towards Earth Day. We'll do something fun around that. All right, I think that's enough for me. Just for demonstration purposes for you. I'm gonna make sure got that off. All right, so I have gone ahead and pre-cut my screen. And this is where I'm gonna put on my For Realsies gloves. I use See Her Work gloves. That is a female-founded company, so my gloves, which are available at Lowe's or at seeherwork.com, are fitted to women. So I'm a huge fan of these, cannot say enough. And again, we like to support female-founded companies, especially in construction and manufacturing. So if you are interested, these are, they're nice, buttery soft. But if you're dealing with anything, especially once you start using snips, and especially if kids are gonna be handling this, you just don't wanna get pokies into those hands, that hurts. So I went ahead and pre-cut this. I have huge snips here. So these are my Craftsman snips. These are a little bigger than what you need. You can definitely use something a little bit smaller than this, but whatever snips you've got, you can use. So I went ahead and pre-did this so you wouldn't have to watch me. It's like watching paint dry. Go ahead and cut all of this out. This just matches my base. So if you have a 12 by 12 base, all you're gonna do is take that wire. What I did was mark with a Sharpie. So with a bright colored Sharpie, you wanna mark. The best thing is this is like graph paper. So it's just like a grid. You just mark out where you want to cut and then you snip within. So I've already also gone ahead and snipped. I have 9 succulents that I want to go in here, and you can space plan this out depending on how big or small you make your planter. I mean, you can make a massive planter or smaller than this. You could cut this in half, make this 6 little ones. Those are also the big succulents that I got at Lowe's. They have smaller ones that are a little bit more compact if you wanted to make a smaller planter. This is where you get to get creative, right? So I've already gone ahead and marked. I'm not sure if you can get this on the iPhone in video, but I went ahead and marked. So I did 9 by 9 sections after I measured out what I had to work with in terms of my plants. So might be a good math project if you've got kids involved, is to say, okay, what do we need to do? Mark it. I'm gonna go ahead and do the one last section that I have here with you. And again, my snips are pretty big. I could certainly use a smaller pair here that are a little more nimble, but whatever works. I mean, you could use a pair of scissors. They will probably get trashed. I'll just go ahead and give you the public service announcement on that one, because this is heavy duty wire. You don't want to use screen, like screen for a screen porch or for a window or anything. That's just not gonna cut it. You want something with a little bit heavier gauge, and they have multiple different options at Lowe's. So again, that was pretty easy, right? Just popped it right out, but you still have these little frodies, these little guys around. So again, I would keep my gloves on just to make sure. Now here's a choice. 2 things you could do. Staple gun. I'll go ahead and staple. The staple gun has not been super duper reliable for me today. So what I'm gonna do is reinforce this with, you know, pretty simple stuff of keeping that down. And I'm not exactly perfect on my corners either. You can also reinforce this with a glue gun. So I'm a huge fan of a glue gun, just like spray paint. I mean, this is not a craft glue gun. This is the Aero industrial strength, you know, high temp glue guns that are at Lowe's. These are about $20. For these types of craft projects, I'm a fan just because it gives you a little more reinforcement. This is not something that's gonna be getting wet. It's not something that's gonna be outside. So that's where you make the judgment calls on using reinforcement of a glue gun. So I'm just gonna put that on my corner. Sorry, I'm working with a very small table today. And then you get to your picture window. So this as well, I'll go ahead and show you. I'm gonna let that glue dry. I've also reinforced this with glue. I just stapled gunned these together. Picture frame, these are 2-inch sections. So what you want is a little bit of overhang. So I measured my box and then I took it 1 inch past. And then I knew how much. We just started with a sheet of plywood last night. Knock that down on our table saw, and then I'm gonna take the miter corners on my compound miter saw here. Again, Lowe's would be nice enough to do this for you if you already have your dimensions. So you say, okay, I know I have a 12 by 12 box. I know I wanna do 2-inch sections of plywood and I wanna cut that down. These are super inexpensive, these sheets of plywood, and you can use it for multiple projects. Or again, if you have scrap wood, this is pretty simple to do. So what I did was staple gun these together, and then I just reinforced it with that glue gun because they weren't necessarily a perfect match to the corners. And then I stained it. So what I did, these are nice and dry now. What I did was just take my Minwax. I used this for another project last week. Super big fan of this Minwax wood finish. This is espresso. I like the darker colors right now. I'll start using lighter colors on some other projects. I use these craft brushes. They're super easy. Stuff like plywood sucks this up really fast. You take a rag to it after. About an hour later, you've got a dry project. Could you varnish this or polyurethane for sure? I didn't. I'm just keeping it natural afterwards, but you've got a lot of choices. You could spray paint this. We all know I love spray paint. You could spray paint that as well, but I went ahead and just stained it down. So just to show you really quickly, I've already got mine set to a 45-degree angle over here. Always, 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 if you're using saws, anything with sawdust, I should have my ear protection, but again, I'm talking to you, so it's really hard for me to do that. And I had already had my 2-inch pre-cut section, so there you go, you've got a 45-degree angle. This is cut for a much smaller box, clearly, but again, they could do that for you at Lowe's if you needed that to happen, or use your saw. So back to this, here we are at our final stages. I've already got my pre-cut sections here, and again, 2 options. If you've got, and I'm gonna fit it exactly to my section here. You could use your glue gun because again, this is going indoors. It's not something that you're sticking out a planter box in your outside of your house. That's not going to be really weatherproof forever. But again, this box, we haven't made it weatherproof to begin with, so no polyurethane, etc. You could use your glue gun or you could use your staple gun. Since I'm not a super big fan, or excuse me, finish nails, not a staple gun. Take that back. Don't use a staple gun here. You want to use finish nails on this. So what I could do is go ahead and just pop out a couple of finish nails that we were using earlier, something short. I mean, this is going to be more than enough to go through my wood. Take this down back to our section here. And then we're going to go ahead and finish it off with our succulents. And I'll just show you a few, and then we'll post a picture of our finished one. But again, just on either corner of that 45-degree angle. There we go. All right. I'm gonna even that up a little bit more. It's get my other corner and then I can go ahead and show you. So again, if you're using your finished nails, you're definitely going to want to get those on first. There we go. Me and that plywood were getting along there for a minute. Get that on first. We'll save you from the rest of that because I want to show you just the last step of inserting our succulents, which hopefully are going to come out of here pretty simply. Put on my garden gloves again for this. Fun project to do outside today again. Get in if it is a nice weather for you. Hopefully it is. Haven't looked at the countrywide statistics of what people's weather is today, but our hope for you is that it's really nice. So I'm just going to work that in there and take out some of that extra. You've got extra potting soil around it. Do that as well. Get that guy in there. And there's one. So again, just working around our netting and our screen here. And then you can go back afterwards and add a little bit back in once you get all of them in there. Because again, you've got some extra plywood in there. I would use the surrounding ones for these first ones to kind of patch that back in. Put a couple more in here just to see which ones do I want to work with. And again, get artsy with this. You can have a lot of fun with these succulents for sure, and they're pretty hardy. So not to say you can beat them up here, but you can definitely work with them. They're not dainty. This one has a lot more roots. We're going to push that one. You can kind of mold the root bed as well down in there. Here's my second one. And again, I'll go back in there and make sure that it's nicely, all those roots are down in there, taken care of pretty simply. See which ones we want. Make it artsy, right? You gotta put it together. This has so many, different opportunities for being creative with the layout, with the colors that you use. Fun projects to add some oxygen back into your house. We're all kind of stuck in our houses right now, so oxygen and living plants are a fun thing to have around right now. Huge, huge fan. All right, I'm gonna try to make this as fast as I can, just so you can see something that's actually finished. And again, I'm doing this quickly, so my neighbors are doing their lawn, so it's just that nice outside today, right? All right, so I'm gonna do a couple more here for you really quickly. Got 5 left. Let's see what we can work with really quickly. Put these in here for you. And depending on the root ball, again, you're gonna have to be careful with some, like these more densely packed, tight ones in there. versus the looser ones there. All right, 3 more to go. So, put that guy there. I'm gonna stick the nice aloe plant, which has a lot of different benefits right now. Stick that one over to the side. Now one more left, and I'll show you our finished kind of project, and then we'll clean it up and take a picture for you later of our super finished cleaned up project. This will just give you a good idea of what we came up with in literally a half an hour. So with pre-cutting and working with your wood, I think all told, this project would be around an hour. So again, I've got a little bit more potting soil hanging out here. There you go, and I would push that up to a 45-degree angle up against something in probably my kitchen, and then you can spray it. Make sure it stays sprayed and clean and nice and pretty in your house. Give it some extra pizzazz. So have fun. As always, post pictures to us or direct message us with any kind of questions or with your final projects. So have fun, get outside, enjoy yourself, stay safe out there.